Ryan went abroad to study. And I made countless trips across the ocean just to see him. At last, the day of his return finally came. Ryan, I'll pick you up at the airport tomorrow. My voice brimmed with joy. But on the other end of the line came an unsettling silence. I've even planned a welcome for you, your favorite. Hazel. He cut me off. My buddy's coming to get me. And I'm having dinner with my family and friends. Once I'm done, I'll come see you. Alright. I didn't respond. He hung up. After that, no matter how many times I called, his phone never went through again. When I called Ryan, I was in a bakery buying a strawberry cheesecake, his favorite. Miss. Just confirming your order. The clerk smiled. 1 strawberry cheesecake. Delivery at 8 p.m. 2. I put my phone down and forced a small, apologetic smile. Sorry. Could you change it to a chocolate ice cream cake instead? Everything else stays the same. That night, o'clock sharp, I popped 730 blue balloons one by one. And I stuffed 730 blue roses into garbage bags. Thorns sliced my fingers open, streaking them with blood. Sharp pain, almost satisfying. When all the mess was cleared, I took the cake from the fridge, lit a single candle, and whispered softly, "Happy 28th birthday, Hazel. Dad. Mom. Hazel misses you so much." Tears, cold as ice, dripped onto the cake. I grabbed a handful and shoved it into my mouth as if eating fast enough could keep me from crying. Chocolate and ice cream. My parents used to make me this every birthday 5 years ago. Later, Ryan always said, "Let's buy strawberry instead. It tastes better." The familiar flavor filled the air. I'd eaten so much, yet my mouth felt utterly empty. What a joke. The phone screen lit up once. Twice. Again. Ryan? Had he finished his dinner? Finally remembered me? I laughed bitterly, feeling a faint tremor of excitement as I picked up the phone. Hot and read messages, all from Luna. A photo, Ryan, tipsy. His arm draped lazily over her shoulder. 2 lines of text. Hey, heading Velvet Rebirth. Top student. Ryan's at the reunion tonight. He said you were too busy working to come. So he begged me to keep him company. How should you thank me? We're playing golf tomorrow. You'd better come too. I replied. Luna. Do you live by Dongting Lake? Must be. To have raised such a bitter green tea like you. Everyone knows I like Ryan. Perfect timing. I'm sick of this meal anyway. The plate's all yours to lick clean. After firing off that last message, I suddenly felt tired. The urge to call Ryan and end it right there surged through my mind. I grabbed my phone. But he called first. His voice came, half drunk, half arrogant. Hey, heading Velvet Rebirth. Babe, I'm wasted. Come pick me up at Shangxi Jianggan. Pick you up? I wanted to. But not tonight. Not ever again. I paused for a few seconds, then spoke with a calmness that felt like frost. Ryan. Let's break up. My tone was light, almost casual, but only I knew that in that moment, something deep inside me snapped, and the pain was suffocating. When did we start becoming strangers? I stared at my toes, trying to figure out how to crawl out of this swamp. I don't know how long I sat there before a furious pounding shook the door. Hazel. Open up right now, or we're done. A woman's voice came next. Soft and coaxing. She's just being emotional. Don't be mad. Let me talk to her. I can't stand seeing you hurt yourself. A drunk lunatic yelling outside my home. I didn't dare open the door. Through the door, I told him to leave. He let out a low laugh. I've got the key. Remember? Just wait. Then came the jingle of metal. He was using the trust I once gave him to break me again. Before he could open it, I pulled the door wide first, forcing myself to stand tall, swallowing the last shred of my dignity. He stumbled in, eyes falling on the cake. For a moment, he froze. Then his face hard and into righteous fury. It's your birthday? So that's why you're acting like this? You deliberately didn't remind me? You just want to pick a fight? I was in a good mood tonight, you ruined it. Hazel. Every guy there had his girlfriend come pick him up. Why can't you? Why are you breaking up out of nowhere? I had you on speaker. Do you realize how humiliating that was for me? Luna smiled faintly, placing a hand on his back, her eyes gleaming with triumph. My hands trembled. Fists clenched tight. Anger boiled up. No place to go. I grabbed the half-melted chocolate cake and slammed it over both of them. Ryan. You bastard. Give me back my keys. Get out of my house. I've called the police. Luna threw herself in front of him and slapped me across the face. How dare you hurt him? She glared at me like a rabid mother hen guarding her chick. Ryan and Luna stood side by side, and he just watched. Watched as her hand struck me. Sharp and cruel. Without moving to stop it. Thanks to him. I had never been so humiliated in my life. I don't know how long the chaos lasted. When I was completely drained, the police finally arrived dragging those 2 pieces of trash out of my apartment. Before leaving, Ryan hurled the keys to the floor. Eyes cold as steel. Hazel. You'll regret this. I already do. I said flatly. I regret ever meeting you. The next morning, I went to work as if nothing had happened. When I opened my desk drawer, a Stella Lou plush toy lay inside, next to a birthday card. My heart jolted. Someone still remembered my birthday? I used to have many friends. But somewhere along the way, Ryan had become my whole world. Ryan and I started dating in our junior year. That year, my parents got into a car accident on their way to celebrate my birthday. They didn't make it. My world collapsed just like that. Every day, having Giselle Liebsai. Every minute. Every breath was torture. I did nothing but study and cry. I barely ate. Losing more than 10 pounds in a month. Then Ryan appeared. He was the complete opposite of me. He trailed me everywhere. Annoyingly persistent. Forcing me to eat. Making me laugh. He taught me basketball. Video games. Stayed up all night watching movies with me. When I couldn't sleep, he'd sit in the dorm hallway, singing through the night. When I got sick, he skipped his competitions to take care of me around the clock. He once said, Hazel, from now on, I'll spend every one of your birthdays with you. He was born bright and restless. Wild and untamed. He played basketball beautifully. And I would sit quietly in the stands, watching him. Sometimes our eyes met, and we shared a smile sweet and simple. Many girls cheered for him, asking for his number. He would laugh, shake his head, and point apologetically at me. I never minded. Back then, my confidence came from him. He led me out of the shadows and back into the sunlight. I was always grateful for that. The year we graduated, he didn't get into graduate school. I secretly gave up my guaranteed admission, planning instead to marry him and build a home of our own. But then he suddenly announced, my parents want to send me abroad for grad school. I want to see the world too, otherwise it feels like my youth will have been wasted. I asked, what about me? What about us? He pulled me into his arms, stroking my hair gently like petting a small dog. Just 2 years. It'll fly by. You can visit during holidays, I'll take you around. But the thought of not seeing him for so long made me burst into tears. His eyes reddened too. Sobbing, I lashed out between hiccups. I can't bear for you to go. Please don't go. I had rarely shown weakness in front of him. That was the first time and the last. But he left anyway. The day his plane took off, I ran to the airport like a fool, wanting to tell him, you idiot. I'll wait for you. But then I saw him with another girl laughing together. Sunlight streamed through the terminal's glass walls, wrapping the two of them in shimmering color, like they were living inside a soap bubble of their own. She noticed me first. Rising on her toes, she tapped Ryan's forehead playfully and said something with a tender smile. He turned around, and his smile froze. It felt like I had popped their bubble. I was the intruder. The girl spoke first. You must be that top student from med school, right? Hi, Hazel. I'm Luna, Ryan's childhood friend and classmate. My dad does business in the U.S., and I happen to be going there for work, so we're on the same flight. Back then, I thought I was just overthinking. But after that day, I'd heard Luna's name countless times from Ryan. He said Luna was annoying, nagged like his mom. He said she wasn't feminine at all, wild, rougher than a man. He said she was a bad girl, smoked, drank, Went clubbing. Later. He said she was cool. She'd driven solo across the desert. He said she was tough and optimistic after breaking her leg in a race. She still hopped her way to see the sunrise by the sea. Later still. He stopped mentioning her. In the days that followed, Ryan seemed to vanish from my world. The two of us, who used to video chat every day before he went abroad, suddenly became strangers. But it wasn't really sudden. Every ending leaves traces. Sometimes I'd scroll through Luna's social posts, Ryan playing golf, Ryan singing at KTV, Ryan back at school for a basketball game, Ryan having dinner with family. I was busy too. I opened an email from Adrian. It was the overseas medical training application. I replied, "Thanks for the reminder. And thanks for the Stella Lou." He wrote back, "It's one my girlfriend didn't want. I remembered it was your birthday. So I tossed it in your drawer. Lucky you. Are you going?" He added, "Don't tell me you'll give up the spot again like you did for me last time." I replied, "I'm going. Try and stop me. And thank your girlfriend for the Stella loud inners on me tonight." He answered, "She can't. She's got a date with me." I said, "You're hiding her too well. I'm dying to meet the girl who's kept you hooked all these years. Unlike me who's already been discarded." He replied, "I lifetime. And I'll never get tired of her." That level of PDA was criminal. I exited the email thread, unwilling to talk further. I filled out the form in one breath. Just as the emergency department called. "Hello. Is this Hazel? We just received a car accident victim. He's unconscious. We contacted you from his phone. The patient's name is Ryan. Do you know him?" Ryan had been in an accident just near my neighborhood. Was he coming to find me? Looking at the once lively, sunshine-filled boy lying bloodied on the hospital bed, my eyes burned. I told myself, "Hazel, this isn't because you still love him. Even if it were a stray dog you'd raised for 5 years, you'd still feel something. It's human nature. Nothing more." Adrian arrived too. He tried to comfort me. "Ryan's got 3 broken ribs and a fractured right leg, non-fatal. Don't worry." Then he hesitated. "But his spine, he might need long-term rehab." His voice faltered. Eyes downcast. We both knew what that meant. Ryan might never walk again unless a miracle happened. I wiped my tears, forcing composure. "Adrian, you do the surgery." "I can't. We broke up. I'm afraid I'll lose control and mess up the operation." Adrian frowned in disbelief. "He hurt you?" I gave a bitter smile. "Yeah. He fell for someone else. Damn it. I warned him if he ever hurt you, I'd make him pay." He punched the white wall, blood blooming against it. I grabbed his hand, shouting, "Are you insane? Your hand. You need that hand. A surgeon's hands are his life." He really had lost it. He yelled, "Then forget it. I can't do the damn surgery anyway. I'll go kill him myself." He'd always been calm, steady, but now he looked like a mad and wolf, crazed with grief. I clung to him, reaching for his phone. "If I can't control you, maybe your girlfriend can. I'll call her right now. She's the only one who might stop you." He froze, pressing down on the hand rummaging in his pocket. Blushing, he muttered, "Don't tell her. I don't want her to worry." I was speechless. Seriously? Was it necessary to show off your relationship to a freshly heartbroken woman? In the end, Ryan's mother called the director, and the surgery was done by a senior specialist. But his legs remained unresponsive. When Ryan woke, he broke down. He pressed my hand to his face. Cold tears slipped through my fingers, soaking into the white pillow, disappearing without a trace. I tried to pull away. He whispered, "Hazel, I was on my way to see you." Then, went on a low sigh, staring at me with haunted eyes. He said, "I wanted to beg you not to leave me. I don't like Luna. I only like you." My mind was a mess. And before I knew it, I crashed. His voice trembled, tears gathering again. "I was so scared I'd never see you again. Don't leave me. Please. Don't leave me. Okay?" The withered plane leaves outside fluttered down in the autumn wind, clattering like crippled crabs. After a long silence, I said evenly, "Even if you weren't coming for me, I still wouldn't have left you there. What I really wanted to say was, I took care of you not because you were coming to me. Don't make it sound like I owe you anything. The breakup was your doing. You were the one behind the wheel. And besides, that crushed bouquet on your passenger seat was red roses. You never gave me red roses. Because I hate red, the red that looks like blood. The red that makes my skin crawl. But since he was still lying there half paralyzed, the words that reached my lips came out softer. Even if you weren't coming for me, I still wouldn't have left you there. I was leaving soon anyway. What was the point of another meaningless argument? Every day, heavy day, apart from going to work, I stayed by Ryan's side. When my handover was done before leaving the country, I spent every hour caring for him. Just as he once cared for me back in our junior year. Ryan. This time, it really is goodbye. Our love has run dry. Our debts are repaid, and strangers we shall remain. Yet he seemed like a different man, constantly reminiscing. Talking about the past. He talked about our first kiss. How his lips trembled from nervousness. Our first trip together. When he fell into the water trying to pick me a lotus. How I was afraid of the cold. And he'd warm my hands against his stomach. And when we graduated. How I gave up my chance at graduate school for him. He said. I only found out right before leaving the country. That's when I realized I'll never meet anyone who loves me the way you do. He spoke only of happy memories. Yet halfway through, he would always end up in tears. The more I listened, the more I wondered how blind I'd been. He was like a sunflower, chasing the light while the sun still shone, only to remember the soil that held him once the autumn sun faded. When you finally think of me, do you really think I'll still remember who you are? He worked hard in rehab, sweating through the pain, gritting his teeth through every session. For someone who'd always been so careless, it was almost impressive to see him serious for once. Even his mother started reaching out to me, as if she had never ignored me before. She added me on social media, called me child with forced affection, reminded me to dress warmly, not to exhaust myself. She even invited me to go house hunting with her, an offer I politely declined. 3 days before my departure, Ryan's legs began to show signs of recovery. Ironically, I was the last person to know. That day, I saw him lying on the bed, playing with his phone. Worried it would fall and hit his face, I slipped a pillow behind his back. His fingers were flying across the screen. His lips curled in that familiar, dazed smile. He didn't even notice me. Then I caught a glimpse of the Chad avatar Luna, who had vanished for nearly a month. Ryan had texted her, I can feel my legs again. I didn't even try to hide it. I leaned in and said with a bright smile, wow, your legs have feeling again? That's wonderful. Ryan. He froze, color draining from his face. Panicked. He flipped the phone face down, grabbed my hand and stammered, I was going to tell you first. But you weren't here. And, Luna. I wasn't. The more he spoke, the more his tongue tangled itself. I kept my calm smile and said mildly, your flowers need new water. I'll be right back. But he snapped. In a sudden burst of fury, he smashed the vase from my hands. The crash of shattering glass was followed by his hysterical roar. Hazel. Can't you just stop already? So I made the same mistake every man makes. I just lost my head for a moment. I didn't even sleep with her. Do you have to be this relentless? That fakes my love every day. Who the hell is it for? And just like that, he broke down crying again. This man truly was sick. Cry. Cry. Why don't you just yell at me or hit me or something? Don't be so calm. You're scaring me. Then came another bang. The door burst open. Hazel. Are you okay? Adrian stormed in like a gust of wind, yanked me behind him, away from Ryan and the shards of glass. I patted his shoulder lightly. Relax. He's half a cripple. What could he possibly do to me? Come on. I don't like watching people argue. I walked out first. Adrian hurried to catch up, asking softly, you alright? I laughed this time. Genuinely. It's just a scumbag. Hardly worth the trouble. Right? He chuckled. Right. Hardly worth it. Over the next 2 days, I started packing. I stopped going to the hospital. And Ryan didn't call. Even the air felt cleaner. When did I start hating him this much? I wondered. I planned to list the apartment and asked Adrian to help me keep an eye out for a good offer. But he shrugged. My girlfriend's jealous. I can't. So I sold it cheap and found peace in the simplicity. Once my program abroad ended, I wanted to do medical aid work anyway. The apartment would have just gathered dust. On my last day, I went to the hospital to say goodbye to my colleagues. As I passed Ryan's ward, I heard his voice strong and arrogant again. Hazel can't live without me. She's crazy about me. She used to fly all the way to the States just to see me. I never once went back for her. She didn't leave me even when my legs were gone. Now that I'm healing, do you really think she'll go? I bet you anything within 3 days. She'll come running back, teary-eyed. She always does that. Gets jealous. Then cold shoulders me. Boring. He hung up and immediately dialed someone else. Hey, guess what? Hazel's throwing another tantrum. Haven't seen her in 2 days. Hazel can't live without me. She loves me too much. I was gone for 3 years. And it was always her who flew to the U.S. to see me. I never once came back to visit her. She stayed by my side even when I was crippled. Now that my legs are healed, you think she'd really have the heart to leave? I bet anything she'll be back in 3 days. Crying her eyes out, begging to stay with me. He made call after call, repeating over and over how much I loved him. I couldn't tell if he was trying to convince someone else or just himself. I shook my head and let out a quiet, bitter laugh. How on earth had I ever fallen for such a fool? Just as I turned to leave, I nearly bumped into Ryan's mother. She stood by the door, looking at me quietly, and said softly, "Could I have a moment of your time? Let's talk." We walked together to a quiet corner. She drew in a deep breath and exhaled slowly, as though trying to release all the pride she'd been holding in. When she spoke again, her voice trembled, stripped of its usual howler. "I don't know why, but even when you're smiling, I can't shake the feeling that you're not really smiling." Her words grew increasingly frantic. She reached out, grasping my hand. It was my fault before. I cared too much about family background and status. Now I finally understand what it means to share joy and hardship together. When Ryan got hurt, you were the only one who stayed. I interrupted her calmly. You've misunderstood. I only stayed to repay the kindness he once showed me. I don't love him anymore. I'm leaving for overseas tomorrow, and I won't be coming back. Please tell him for me take care of himself. And forget about life or death between us. Behind me, she called out again, her voice trembling. I can give you money, just stay. Name your price. Whatever you want. I didn't turn around. I lifted my hand in a small wave and walked straight ahead without looking back. By sheer coincidence, I ran into Luna at the airport. She got straight to the point. To be honest, the day Ryan had that car accident, he was coming to meet me. It happened near the hotel closest to your place. I was waiting for him there. I told him that if he didn't come, I'd call someone else instead. He was trying to calm me down over the phone while driving. That's when it happened. After the accident, he blocked me first, afraid I'd get dragged into it. And now that his legs have recovered, I was the first person he told. Her chin tilted upward, proud and defiant, like a rooster ready for a fight. But I was human. I didn't see the point in sparring with a bird. I nodded. I already knew. You really came all this way just to repeat nonsense? You're dumber than I thought. She smirked with self-satisfaction. That's why I think you shouldn't come back after you go abroad this time. It's for your own good. I smiled. Honestly, I do appreciate you. Don't worry, I will be coming back. Wish you both a happy life and may your children be as noisy as you are. Ryan waited for days in the hospital. But Hazel never came. He was furious. He deleted every photo of her on his phone and posted on his social feed, "Those who abandoned me yesterday is gone and cannot return." He wheeled himself into a nightclub, bathed in the neon haze, and posted again, "Drink today, for tomorrow may never come." Then, let out a low sigh. A sunrise by the sea with Luna, the most beautiful view. In the best of times. But Hazel's avatar never lit up again. Panic set in. He sent a crying emoji only to see Message sent but rejected by recipient. He sent another. And another. Each time. The same cold system reply. He lost it, hurled his phone to the ground and stomped it into pieces. No one knew how long he sat there afterward, drained, crumpled on the floor, sobbing into his hands. When the tears finally ran dry, he scrambled frantically through drawers and boxes, searching for a photo of Hazel, only to realize there wasn't a single one left. It had always been Hazel who developed the photos, carefully labeling each with dates and places before placing them in albums. He picked up the shattered phone and rushed to get it repaired. But it was pointless. Everything about Hazel had been erased by his own hand. Even the recycle bin cleared. He went back to the hospital to look for her. But everyone said she had already gone abroad. He couldn't understand it. All that for a lousy job? How much could she possibly earn? Was it really worth giving up him for that? The more he thought about it, the more foolish she seemed. Wouldn't marrying him have been easier? Why insist on chasing hardship? He remembered saying to her, being a doctor is exhausting and barely pays. You could work your whole life and never make what my dad earns in a month. Let me take care of you. Don't work, just eat, drink, and enjoy life. But she never relented. She always said it was her dream. That's not what life is about. We can't just live for money. At the hospital, he finally exploded, cursing Hazel, cursing every doctor in sight. Then someone snapped back. Anyone can insult us. But not you. If it weren't for us poor doctors, you'd be dead already. Adrian grabbed him by the collar and turned him out, shouting, "Get lost before I make sure you can't walk again." Ryan lay there on the pavement, motionless. He didn't get up, didn't cry, didn't shout. The sky shifted from gray to ink black above him. And still, he didn't move. In that stillness, he finally understood. Hazel didn't leave because of the jobs. He left because he'd never truly reached her heart. He knew she disliked red roses but never realized it was because she'd seen her parents die in a car crash surrounded by them. He knew she loved being a doctor but never grasped that it was because she wanted to save lives. He'd never understood her kindness. His head had been filled only with self-interest, with money, with pleasure. He knew Hazel loved him but not this version of him. She had loved the boy he used to be. The one full of sunlight. He didn't know how long he lay there before he staggered to his feet, mumbling to himself, "I'll become that Ryan again. The one Hazel loved." For a long time afterward, he went mad with determination, shooting hoops for hours, forcing a smile at the empty bleachers. But the overaggression crippled his legs permanently. He would never run again. He spent countless nights singing into his phone, crying between verses. No one ever answered. Hazel was gone for good. And he was the one who lost her. In my second year of studying in Germany, I suddenly received a message from Adrian. "I'm flying to Berlin tomorrow. Senior. Please take care of me." I replied, "Aren't you getting married? What's the fuss about?" He didn't respond. I thought he was joking. The next day, in the middle of the night, I groggily received a call. "Hayes. You better be at the airport in an hour. Or I don't mind freezing to death to show you." I snapped awake, jumping out of bed. "What? You're really here?" He responded. "I'm not going. I'm about to go. You have 58 minutes. Looking at the snowstorm outside, I shivered. Could he be frozen to death? I quickly grabbed my coat and rushed to the airport. On the way, I thought about Adrian. Somehow, he didn't seem like the typical jerk. Back in college, he was pure as a saint. Always hanging out with the guys and never flirting with the girls. Whenever I couldn't find a seat in the library, he would always be there. He'd glance at me, then at the seat next to him, always saying the same thing, which I still remember. "Hayes. No seat? The one next to me is for my roommate. But he's not coming. You can sit here." I'd sit beside him. And he wouldn't even glance my way. Later, when his grandmother fell ill, he took 2 months off. When he returned, I had already started dating Ryan. After that, Adrian never offered me a seat again. I asked him, "Is your roommate coming today? Can I sit here?" Without looking up, he said, "My girlfriend won't like it. Don't sit here." I heard he finally got a girlfriend. a high school classmate. They were in a long-distance relationship but were incredibly close. For her, Adrian rejected countless brave confessions from younger girls, breaking hearts in the process. After he started working, he was the perfect boyfriend: no smoking, no drinking, no late nights. I couldn't understand why someone like him would leave his longtime girlfriend to come to Germany. Unless she didn't want him anymore. It was then that I arrived at the airport, and my attitude toward him shifted from disdain to deep sympathy. He sat in the passenger seat, his face dark, stiff as a board. I shoved a bag of bread into his arms. "There's nothing else at home. Make do with this." Through chattering teeth, he muttered a sharp response, shattering the tense atmosphere. "Hayes. You'd better have a good reason for putting me through this." I grabbed a baguette and shoved it into his mouth. "It's hard. But eat a few bites to warm up. Stop shivering and then you can yell at me. Okay?" He bit down hard on the bread. I let out a sigh of relief finally. His mouth was occupied. I wasn't used to him talking so much. By the time we reached my apartment, I had already been inside for nearly a minute when I looked back and saw him still standing outside in the snow, staring at me like a fool. I called out, "Frozen stiff? Come in." He raised an eyebrow and said, "Hayes, heading for Velvet. I'm actually single." I inwardly slapped myself so. I had guessed right. He'd been dumped and came abroad to lick his wounds. I reassured him. "It's okay. I'm single too. No big deal." He suddenly laughed, nodded, and walked inside with long strides. "True. You're single too. That's great." I was dumbfounded. "What the hell? You deserve to be single. For the rest of your life." Though I fumed internally, I still softened and arranged for him to take a hot bath. His clothes were soaked from the snow, so they were useless for now. I found him a set of my pajamas, though they didn't fit quite right. Thankfully, he wasn't too big, so he could squeeze into my loose nightgown, which covered his backside. He wrapped a towel around his waist and sat beside the fireplace, staring blankly. The glow of the fire softened his face, warming the room. When I brought out ginger tea, I was struck by the sight: Adrian, looking so relaxed in the firelight. A handsome figure indeed. When he wasn't acting tough, he was actually quite adorable. Too bad he hardly ever let his guard down. Something about him seemed different today, though I couldn't quite pinpoint what it was. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. "Have some ginger tea." He suddenly lifted his dark eyes, looking at me with an almost desperate expression, and said, "Feed me." I startled, spilling some of the hot tea onto my hand, making me wince in pain. But I managed not to spill the whole cup. I set the bowl down on the table. "You don't want to drink it? Fine. Don't drink it then." I never thought he'd actually refuse the ginger tea. The next morning, he was still by the fireplace, red as a boiled shrimp from the heat. I couldn't resist commenting, "Lost a love. And now this?" But then I remembered the way he had cared for his girlfriend, and realized that him surviving this far showed just how strong he was. For the next month or so, I took care of him while he sulked. I gave him water and medicine, though he was unwilling to take it. If I didn't force him, he wouldn't drink. Lost love makes a man so fragile. One day, he finally seemed to pull himself together. He made me a hearty breakfast, drove me to school, and cooked dinner for me again that night. After a month of him taking care of me, I finally had my turn to be looked after. Though I didn't mention kicking him out to live on his own. His cooking was actually quite good. Eventually, heading for Velvet, he began giving me rent money every month. I hesitated for a while but finally accepted it. We lived like this for 2 years. Before I graduated, I planned to let him keep the apartment while I left, figuring I'd sort it out later. He asked me, "Hayes, in your plans, have you ever considered me?" I froze for a moment, a little embarrassed, and laughed awkwardly, but before I could change the subject, he said, each word heavy, "Think it through before you speak." I was stunned. Could it be that after 2 years of living together, he had developed feelings for me? Flustered, I simply replied, "Don't talk about feelings. I've given up on them." He looked up at me. His eyes half-lidded. His face in shadow. Unreadable. And quietly said, "Okay." And next day, he left. I packed my things and walked out of the apartment, glancing back at the empty space. Every corner seemed to echo with his presence. That guy, his heart is truly hard. But in the end, I did leave the apartment for him. The plane landed at Beijing Daxing International Airport. Because I was going to Africa for medical aid, I came back to deal with some paperwork. While in China, I saw an alumni meeting being organized. And feeling lonely, I signed up. What I didn't expect was to uncover a secret. It was my first time attending a gathering. People exchanged pleasantries and tried to draw me into small talk. Before long, the conversation shifted to medical aid work, and someone suddenly mentioned Adrian. "Hey, there's this guy named Adrian from your med school. He was my high school classmate. Do you know him?" I nodded. We were in the same class at university. After graduation, we worked at the same hospital too. The man's eyes lit up immediately. That guy was unbelievable. Back in college, he was guaranteed a spot in grad school, but he turned it down and insisted on taking the entrance exams himself. I thought he was just aiming higher. Maybe wanted to apply somewhere else. But guess what? He ended up taking the exam and applying to our own school and only listed one choice. Tell me, isn't that the kind of crazy confidence that borders on genius? My chopstick slipped from my hand and clattered onto the table. For a brief moment, my mind went blank. Then, hello, sigh. Memories came flooding back in a blur. I couldn't hear what anyone else was saying anymore. All I could think of was my advisor's words. "The school has an extra recommendation slot. If you've changed your mind, I can give you another chance." So it was him. He'd done it for me. My heart pounded violently as I stood up, panic and confusion flooding through me. I wanted to find him to demand an answer. But I didn't even know where to start. I just stood there, frozen, as everyone at the table turned to stare. He'd left without a trace, no number, no address, nothing. "Do you know where he is now?" I asked. The man shook his head, then glanced toward the door. "Hey, Ryan. Why are you here alone? Where's your fee and key?" Ryan's tall figure stood framed in the doorway. His eyes locked onto me like a predator sighting its prey. "Hazel," he rasped, his voice hoarse. "Haven't you caused enough trouble? Why didn't you contact me when you got back? Do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you?" His eyes were red as he grabbed my wrist. "Come with me." I shook him off without hesitation. "You're about to get married, Ryan. How can you still be such a jerk?" His expression twisted, eyes glistening. "If you just say the word, I'll break up with Luna right now." Some of the alumni had already pulled out their phones, secretly recording the scene. I didn't want any part of this drama anymore. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. "Ryan," I said flatly, "I'm married with a child. With Adrian. You and I are over." He froze in shock. I took the chance to sprint out as fast as I could, like running the 100-meter dash. After that fiasco, I knew I'd never show my face at another alumni reunion again. I completed the paperwork in record time and flew to Africa. And right there at the airport, I saw a familiar face, cool, composed, impossibly handsome. He was holding up a giant Stella Loose sign that read, "Hazel." He smiled as he walked toward me. "Long time no see. Kiddo's mom." My cheeks burned instantly. I asked, "What if I hadn't come to Africa?" He chuckled softly. "I'm not some lovesick fool. Every path I'd taken was one I wanted for myself. It just so happens our paths cross. If you hadn't come, I'd have been sad, but that's a separate matter. I wouldn't give up on my dreams or lose myself over it. Life's short. There's more to it than love. Don't you think the same? Perhaps that's what adult love really is." I looked at him and asked, "So what's your dream?" He smiled. "The same as yours." "And what's my dream?" I asked, half teasing. "Whatever it is," he said, eyes warm. "It's mine too." I stared at him, speechless. The next time I heard about Ryan was 10 years later. Someone posted in the alumni group that he was looking for a job, something with flexible hours, so he could pick up his child from school. It seemed like a mass message sent to everyone. Turned out, His family had gone bankrupt years ago. He and Luna never married, though they did have a child. The child was frail, born with a heart defect from years of the parents' heavy drinking. After taking over the family business, Ryan struggled through an economic downturn. The trading company collapsed within a few years. Luna was caught drunk driving, mistook the gas pedal for the brake outside a school, killing several students. She was sentenced to life in prison. Ryan's mother fell into depression and took her own life. He was left alone to raise their child, stripped of all his old arrogance and charm. I leaned back on the couch, staring blankly at my phone. Adrian stood behind me, his handsome face appearing above my head. "What's got you so absorbed?" he asked. I held up the phone so he could see. He glanced at the screen, said nothing. When I looked up, I caught a flash of jealousy on his face. I couldn't help but smile. Rising on my toes, I pressed a soft kiss to his chin. His voice went low and husky as he kissed me back. Outside the window, the world was quiet and green. Another spring had come. The widow of my husband's comrade knocked on the door again. This time, she asked him to help fix the bathroom pipes. "My house doesn't have any men around, so I have to trouble Kale." She wrapped herself in a towel, awkwardly covering her chest, yet her gaze was fixed on my husband. Without a word, Kale put down his chopsticks and was about to follow her. "I can call a repairman for you." I grabbed Kale, but he pushed me away without hesitation. "She's my comrade's widow. How can I let another man enter her home? You're ruining her reputation." The door slammed shut in front of me. I calmly picked up the table of exquisite dishes and dialed my father's number. "Dad, I want a divorce. Let Kale's comrade's death be delayed by 3 more days." The next morning, when Kale returned, I brought up the divorce. "Just because I fixed the pipes for Luna?" "Yes." I nodded. He scoffed. "Elena, you've really grown bold. You chased after me for 7 years. And now we've been married for only a year. I don't believe you'd let go of me so easily." "It's not about letting go or not. Even the strongest emotions fade with time." I remembered our wedding night. Sitting on the bed, flipping through the photographs taken earlier that day. In every picture, Kale's face was always in profile, his gaze constantly drifting toward Luna. My throat tightened, and I tried to comfort myself, thinking maybe it was just a coincidence. But that night, when Kale held me close, he called out Luna in his sleep. At that moment, I could no longer deceive myself. Seeing my silence, Kale softened his tone. He picked up the hot breakfast and placed it in front of me, filled with all my favorite foods. "She's my comrade's widow, and also a friend I've known for years. If I don't take care of her, that's inhumane. Besides, if there was anything between us, you wouldn't even be here, married to me." His words struck me like a blow. I couldn't believe such things were coming from this man's mouth. I, the daughter of a high-ranking official, had lowered myself to pursue him for 7 years. I had been with him from when he was a nobody to when he finally had his own mansion. I knew he was enjoying my pursuit, but I didn't mind. Moreover, he treated me well. After training, he always replied to my messages promptly, and every word he said echoed in my heart. The watermelon he bought me was always carefully picked, with all the seeds removed. Just because I casually mentioned I didn't like spitting them out, I thought we were both heading in the same direction. I thought he just had a moment of confusion. But when he went to buy me cold medicine, he ended up fixing a light bulb at Luna's house halfway through. And the gifts he bought for me always seemed to have a matching gift for her. He always said it was just a little extra care within his ability, that there was no other meaning. Now, as he rubbed his eyes, looking tired, he said, "We don't have anything going on." Last night, she was a little scared, so I slept on the couch. "Wife, cutting so and session. I'm so tired. Please don't argue. Let me sleep, and I'll make it up to you when I wake up." But as he spoke, he forgot to hide the red marks on his collarbone, as if proudly displaying them. "You can go to sleep. Then we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau for a divorce when you wake up." I remained cold, unmoved. Kale froze, then exploded with anger. A gust of wind came, and I closed my eyes in fear. But I heard the sound of something shattering. Kale had smashed the vase behind me. and shards of glass pierced his palm. But he seemed unaware of the pain as he slowly clenched his fist, letting the blood drip freely. Elena, I don't understand what Luna did to offend you. Why are you targeting her like this? No wonder she always says that people like you are the hottest to get along with. Last night, she taught me how to explain things to you, and I told her you were understanding and wouldn't ask too many questions. Now, you're slapping me in the face. He gritted his teeth, barely holding back his fury. Kale, are you discussing our relationship with me? Or do you need another woman to teach you? I sneered. But inside, my heart was bitter. You think I can't live without you? I've wanted to divorce you for a long time. The night I was pregnant and burning with fever, unable to reach him on the phone, was when I decided I wanted a divorce. Later, I found out that night Luna had just received the news that her husband had died in battle. I was rushed to the operating room, crying through a miscarriage, while he was comforting another woman over and over. It's impossible. Unless I die. Kale slammed the door again and left. I watched his retreating figure, then quietly opened the message his comrade had sent me. Sis, heading so wide sesh. Did the commander tell you I'll be back in 3 days? Don't tell Kale. He's always a blabbermouth. I want to give Luna a surprise. I lightly replied. Okay. I just didn't know whether this would be a surprise or a shock. Who are you messaging? I turned toward the voice, surprised to see Kale returning. Seeing me avoid his gaze, he frowned slightly and asked with displeasure. Are you avoiding me? If it had been any other time, I would have immediately tried to prove I wasn't hiding anything, to avoid any misunderstandings. But now, I looked at his bandaged palm, the butterfly knot carefully tied, turned off my phone, and replied inferiorly. No. You still say no. You. Before he could finish, Kale suddenly fell silent. Luna peeked out from behind him, grabbed his arm, and advised. Kale, don't argue with Elena because of me. I'm all alone, and if I ruin your relationship, what's the point of me living? She turned to me, her expression full of concern. Elena, you're no longer a child. Don't act on impulse like when you were dating. Divorce is not a game. You don't know how much I envy you and Kale. Unlike me, I lost my man, and I still have to trouble others for help with things at home. As she finished, she wiped the tear from the corner of her eye, looking pitiful. Even Kale beside her couldn't help but be moved. You think so much about men. Well, I'll just divorce Gale and give him to you. I mocked, twisting my lips as I watched Luna become speechless, her head hanging in helplessness. Elena, Luna didn't mean it like that. When will you learn to be considerate of others? Kale immediately pulled Luna behind him, his voice as cold as ice. I shouldn't have listened to Luna and tried to make up with you. Someone like you isn't worth it. My pupils dilated slightly, and my heart was suddenly pricked with pain. On the eve of our wedding, when his parents were in a serious car accident, I used all my connections to have them transferred to the military hospital overnight. The usually strong Kale had collapsed, sitting on the floor outside the operating room, silently crying as he held me. He said, Eleni, if it weren't for you, I don't know what I'd do. He promised that he would always give in to me, that even in arguments, he would be the first to apologize and seek reconciliation. But now, he had broken that promise. But it's just as well. I no longer needed him. I turned cold and lifted my chin. Since you always listen to her, why don't you just move into her house? I'm sure she'll be happy. I kicked them both out. But the next day, when I opened the door, I bumped into something. Kale was slowly getting up from the corner, his body seeming stiff and frozen. It looked like he had spent the night at the door. He didn't look at me, simply said, "Good morning," in a casual tone, and left for training as usual. Just as I was about to deal with the divorce, I suddenly received a phone call. It was Kale's comrade, sounding frantic and angry. Sis, Kale was injured on a mission and is in the hospital. You need to come quickly. When I arrived at the hospital, a crowd had gathered outside the ward. They looked at me with expressions that were hard to read, some even clenching their fists. I ignored their veiled glares and asked simply, "Where's the injury?" Someone could no longer hold back and muttered with frustration. He was shot in the calf. If it were any other time, Cale wouldn't have gotten hurt. He's usually so quick. But last night he couldn't get home and had to sleep leaning against the wall. Otherwise, how would he have? Enough. Stop talking. Cale's voice suddenly interrupted from the bed. He was pale, his calf wrapped in bandages. Yet he looked at me with concern in his eyes. Did I scare you? It's nothing serious. Just a minor injury. They're overreacting because they care about me. Cale extended his hand, curling his pinky as a gesture of weakness. We had agreed that a pinky swear meant reconciliation. He remembers every small thing between us, yet fails to see my discomfort with Luna. That's good. At least you can still sign the papers, I said, pulling out the divorce agreement. Without even looking at Cale. As soon as my words fell, someone in the crowd couldn't hold back. He rolled up his sleeves, ready to come at me, but was stopped by others. Red-faced, he screamed at me. Elena, heading fulfilled my obsession. We only call you sister-in-law because of Cale. Otherwise, you're nothing. Don't think you're special just because your father is well off. Since Cale married you, his smile has disappeared. We're supposed to be going on a mission today, and you're still causing a scene about divorce. I've never seen such an unreasonable woman. Others, though holding him back, still joined in. Voices raised. Sister-in-law, whatever your issues with Cale, there's a time and place. He's lying in a hospital bed, and you're still making a scene. Even though his life is not in danger, you still can't let Cale focus on his recovery. Instead, you're stabbing him in the back. What kind of person does that? I listened calmly to their accusations. Every word seemed meant to pin me to a pillar of shame. Are you finished? I smiled. A soft, almost mocking smile. Well, now it's my turn to speak, I continued. Cale, your teammates have almost turned me into a sinner. Don't blame me for not giving you face. I slowly pulled out a stack of photos, flicked them, and stared straight at Luna standing behind the crowd. These are all the photos of Cale entering and leaving your house this month. In 30 days. There are 20 photos. Taken from morning to night. What exactly is your relationship? Luna's face turned pale in an instant. Cale furrowed his brow, growling low. Elena, we'll talk about this at home. I glanced at him inferiorly. Home? Are we that familiar? You've been running to someone else's house 20 days out of the month. Which one is really your home? Also, having till Silva obsession. Have you kept track of how many times you called me by name? Cale froze, suddenly speechless. He tried to get up, hastily reaching for me. But I stepped back, out of his reach. I was just looking after a comrade's widow. Gideon was my best friend. And now that he's given his life for the country, he leaves behind a lonely wife. How could I not care for her? And does your good friend know that you've taken care of his wife? In that way? Did you think about how to make up for him while you were on top of his wife? And how about me? I stared at him, eyes wide, yelling in a numb, aching voice. My heart hurt again, the pain stabbing like needles. I pulled out another stack of photos from my bag, more intimate pictures of the two of them behind my back. They gazed at each other, and I even held Cale's hand, my face glowing with sweetness. I have even more provocative photos. Would you like to see them? Elena. Luna suddenly collapsed to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face. Please. Don't make it harder for Cale. It's all my fault. I never expected you to be so jealous just because I asked for his help. It won't happen again. You're right. Luna continued, sobbing. After Gideon died, I should have gone with him. Widows always cause trouble. I should never have stayed in this world, only to be covered in filth. At least you and Cale are still fine, fighting over divorce. While I'm separated from Gideon by death. She finished her sentence, then suddenly shoved past people and ran toward the window. No one was prepared for it, but Cale reacted swiftly. He dragged himself out of bed, ignoring the pain in his injured leg, and caught her in his arms. Luna, don't do anything stupid. It's not your fault. He turned to glare at me, his eyes filled with a hatred I had never seen before. Elena, Are you satisfied now? Do you need to push Luna to the edge before you're happy? How could I marry such a venomous, malicious woman like you? You want a divorce? Fine. Let's do it. I should have laughed at the irony. But instead, tears fell from my eyes. From the beginning, all I ever wanted was a peaceful divorce. But no matter how I pushed him, how I provoked him, he never once said the words. Meanwhile, Luna only had to act as though she were on the verge of death, and he would fall for it. Luna, I'll sigh. Don't be afraid. I'm here. I won't leave you. Kale held Luna tightly, his eyes full of pain. It was a look I had only seen when someone had broken my bones. That day, he had destroyed an enemy base, but had accidentally left his fingerprints behind. I was kidnapped as his family member, and they slowly crushed my hand. When he saved me, he barely dared to touch me, speaking softly in my ear over and over again. Elena, don't be afraid. I'm here. The voice from the past mingled with the present, but this time, the protagonist was no longer me. I silently watched as Kale signed his name on the divorce agreement, then quietly put it away. There was a faint red mark at the corner of my eye, as if the tears earlier were just a mistake. The next day, the news of my divorce from Kale spread throughout the compound. At the same time, news of his marriage to Luna also spread to every corner. He held a special dinner for his friends, and even sent me an invitation, as though to provoke me. I didn't take it. Instead, I passed it to a media friend, asking them to cover the event, broadcasting it live. The next day, Kale stood on stage with Luna in his arms, beaming and gazing only at her. Thank you all for attending our engagement party today. To be honest, today is the 10th anniversary of our meeting. We never expected that after all these years, we would still end up together. No wonder he insisted on declaring his ownership today. The guests in the crowd murmured restlessly. This doesn't seem right. Just a day after your divorce and you're announcing a new relationship with your comrade's widow? It seems a bit immoral, don't you think? The words were immediately followed by a barrage of sarcastic remarks, all aimed at me. Matters of life and death, there's no room for morality here. You weren't there that day. But Theodore's daughter was bullying people left and right, pushing them to the point of suicide. Exactly. I've always disliked that woman. Her jealousy is off the charts. What man can tolerate that? Luna's already been through so much. Now that someone's looking after her, I'm sure even Gideon, if he knew, would be relieved. Kale smiled faintly as the murmurs of disapproval faded. He raised his voice. Today, I want all our friends and family to witness this. I'm marrying Luna. The microphone screeched loudly, and the door was suddenly kicked open. The sound of military boots striking the ground echoed, sharp and clear. The man entered, each step pressing on everyone's nerves. When he spoke, it was as if thunder had struck. Kale and Luna's eyes widened in shock, their faces pale. Brother, who did you just say you were going to marry? As the words fell, everyone held their breath, staring uncertainly at the man stepping forward. He was clad in full combat gear, with an honorable badge on his shoulder, his eyes like a wolf's, locked onto Kale. Speak up. Who are you marrying? His voice was low, carrying the bloodthirsty energy of someone fresh from the battlefield. Kale's lips twitched, his mind going blank in an instant. Luna turned even paler, her hands leaving imprints as she clenched them, looking for a way to escape but finding none. Eventually, head in fulfilled way, she stepped forward, her tears falling freely. Gideon, sorry. Thank God. You're really okay. You didn't even tell me you were back. I was so worried. I really thought you were gone. She cried as she rushed into his arms, trying to punch his chest in frustration. But her hand was caught before it could land. Gideon sneered. Tell you? Worry? If I'd told you I was coming back, would I have gotten to see this dramatic scene? Luna, I didn't know you and my brother Kale had known each other for 10 years. After all, we've only known each other for 2. His voice grew darker. I was only gone for a month. And you couldn't wait to remarry? Truly, the most poisonous of women's hearts. Luna's hand was suddenly wrenched away, causing her to stagger and nearly fall. Kale instinctively reached out to catch her. but when their hands touched, he felt the heavy gaze of Gideon on them. His body froze. Gideon. Let me explain. It's not what you think. I've known Luna for many years. So when you went missing, I just felt sorry for her. Out of past affection, I offered to take care of her. There was nothing else to it. Now that you're back, that's even better. Before Cale could finish his sentence, his lips were struck painfully. Gideon's fist remained poised, and as Cale snapped back to reality, another punch landed. If I believe your lies again, I'll write my name backward. You've got Eleanor. And now you're messing with my wife? Do you even have any respect for her? For me? Cale. We can't be brothers anymore. Cale spat blood, and his face darkened. Was this Eleanor's doing? I knew it. A woman like her is the most vicious. Did she know you were coming back all along? He stood up straight, furious, ready to explode, but someone grabbed him and pulled him back with a flurry of movement. Cale. Don't be impulsive. The voice that had been hiding reappeared. This is his fault from the start, how can you blame anyone else? Exactly. I never liked Cale. But I didn't expect him to hook up with his brother's wife the moment he disappeared. Who can trust a guy like that? I'm afraid he'll stab me in the back during missions. Just to take my wife. Shut up. Cale's chest heaved in anger, his fists cracking. But he finally calmed himself down. He scanned the room, his voice cold as he issued a warning. If anyone spreads this, don't blame me for turning my back on them. But by the next day, his actions were all over the news. That day, the media made use of their contacts, broadcasting the whole disgraceful scene live to the public. They blurred out personal details, but the sordid affair became widely known. Throwing away your beautiful wife at home to cheat outside. What's worse? You cheated with your brother's wife. Truly spectacular. It's the 21st century. And we've got a modern-day cow. I must still be asleep. Honestly, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. People like him don't deserve a wife. Good thing they're divorcing. The divorce couldn't have come soon enough. Bang. Cale smashed his phone against the ground. But the comments still swirled in his mind. And the odd looks from friends and family that day cut deep into his heart. He exhaled sharply, grabbed his coat, and stormed out. There was only one way to fix things now. He had to find Eleanor and get her to help clear the air. On the other side, I locked up the small apartment I'd lived in for a year and moved back to the old military compound. When Theodore saw me return, he set down his calligraphy brush with a look of pleasant surprise. His face showed nothing but amazement. And I breathed a sigh of relief. Dad was getting old. And it was better not to tell him about the divorce just yet. Otherwise, with his temper, he'd probably show up at Cale's door with a few of his men. Back already? I've prepared your room. And there's soup simmering for you in the kitchen. Since you divorced, you can stay here with me for a while. Back then, when someone came to ask for my Elena's hand, they practically broke down the door. If that boy doesn't cherish you, it's his bad luck. I looked at Dad, as he stood up for me, and warmth flooded my heart. I didn't tell him the real reason for the divorce. He asked once, but then he didn't push further. People his age, unless they've already passed, would probably have spent a lifetime in love with my mother. So, he couldn't possibly understand the rift between Cale and me. He probably just thought it was a matter of incompatible personalities. But even so, he'd never once told me to endure it. Alright. Dad. Stop talking about other people. Your daughter's right here. And I'm getting jealous. I wrapped my arm around his and shook it playfully. Like I used to when I was little. Alright. Alright. No more talk. Come in. Let's see if the calligraphy I'd done still has the same boldness as it did back then. Just then, the doorbell rang at the most inopportune moment. The housekeeper opened the door and screamed. Son-in-law. Why are you here now? I turned toward the voice and saw Cale standing there. His jaw covered in a noticeable bruise. Without the screen of the live broadcast, I could clearly see the blood scabbed on the corner of his mouth, twitching with every movement, causing him pain. Zhao Zhang. Close the door. Don't let anyone in without permission. Father's voice was low and firm. His tone clearly wanted dismissal. He had no intention of entertaining anyone further. Sir. Cale quickly wedged his hand in the doorway, the edge biting into his fingers. He let out a sharp cry, beads of sweat instantly forming on his forehead. I just want to ask Elena one question, he said hoarsely. Once I get my answer, I'll leave. I won't make a scene. His eyes locked on mine, unyielding, desperate. He was always like this, never letting go until he got to the bottom of things. When I was younger, I hid my identity, wanting to live as an ordinary student. But ironically, having fulfilled my obsession. My attempts to stay low profile, my quietness, my caution became the very reason others bullied me. That night, I sat alone in the classroom, crying in silence. Cale found me and refused to leave until I told him what had happened. We sat there from dusk until the sky turned black. Finally, having so felt right say, I confessed that someone had glued my skirt to the chair. I couldn't stand up, humiliated beyond words. Without a second thought, Cale took off his jacket and wrapped it around me, carrying me all the way out, shielding me from everyone's eyes. The next day, I heard he'd been publicly reprimanded for shoving my bullies' heads into a toilet. But now, that very part of him is what I despise the most. When he tears away the veil, it's not only him who's laid bare but me as well. I squeezed father's arm gently, a silent gesture to calm him. Then I turned, meeting Cale's gaze squarely. You can ask. But first, I have a question for you. What exactly was your relationship with Luna before me? Cale froze, clearly not expecting that. His muscles stiffened, then slowly relaxed. Perhaps he thought my question meant I still cared. But he might still have a chance. She weaved you. She rejected me once, Cale muttered, turning away. And in that moment, I realized, for 7 years, I had been chasing after a man who had been chasing someone else all along. She was my first love, he continued bitterly. But her family wasn't well off, and my parents disapproved. Back then, I had nothing to offer her, so I could only watch as she got together with my best friend, the one I'd introduced her to myself. He gave a hollow laugh. Once the truth slipped out, he stopped trying to hide anything at all. Gideon was my closest brother. He had integrity, ability. I believed he would treat Luna well. I thought that would help me move on. But I never expected him to go missing on duty? Or never expected him to come back alive? I finished for him, my stomach twisting violently. Cale? I said, my voice trembling. You truly disgust me. No wonder the atmosphere between him and Luna at every gathering had always been strange. Too familiar to be just friends. Too restrained to be open. Now everything made sense. Every act of favoritism. Every glance, it all connected. And with that clarity, I felt something in me finally loosen. I could admit it now. I had been blind. Yes, having fulfilled say, he said bitterly. I'm disgusting. Then tell me, why was there no news at all about Gideon's return? Was that your doing? Thinking of how he'd been caught red-handed yesterday, punched twice in front of everyone. Cale's forehead throbbed with veins. I had considered using my connections, but in the end, it depended on Gideon himself. If he didn't wish to be found, not even my father's authority could compel him. After all, the man had returned from the brink of death, hailed as a hero. Even father had to show him respect. Who could possibly stop him? I was still deciding how to tell Cale about the message Gideon had sent me. But in that brief hesitation, Cale's eyes hardened. To him, my silence was guilt. A verdict already passed. No need to say it. I already know. I should have known better than to think you were innocent. His voice seethed with fury, his hatred spilling out with every word. Then he turned and left, leaving behind a storm that now fell squarely on me. When I met father's worried gaze, a deep, bitter resentment surged in my chest. Cale shouldn't have dragged my family into this. Shouldn't have made my aging father worry. Elena, you should have told me sooner. Father fumed, trembling all over. Old bones or not, I can still deal with that brat. I hurried to calm him down, calling for the housekeeper to bring his blood pressure medicine. Once he'd taken it, his anger subsided slightly. But his outrage hadn't cooled. No, this can't go unanswered, he muttered, slamming the armrest. To think I once promoted that boy. To bully my daughter, Theodore's daughter. He's not worthy. I couldn't stop father. So I followed along. Our group stormed into Kale's place. And the moment we entered, we heard a heavy grunt. Hadn't cooled. No, this can't go unanswered, he muttered, slamming the armrest. To think I once promoted that boy. To bully my daughter, Theodore's daughter, he's not worthy. I couldn't stop father. So I followed along. Our group stormed into Kale's place. And the moment we entered, we heard a heavy grunt. Two figures were locked in a brutal fight on the floor, fists connecting with raw force. Luna stood frozen to the side, torn between stepping in and holding back. But Kale was no match for Gideon, a man who had survived the battlefield itself. Within minutes, Kale was pinned to the ground, blood spilling from his lips. Gideon, do you have to go this far? Kale roared, voice hoarse. There's nothing between me and Luna. Gideon didn't answer. He just struck again, another merciless punch. As Kale's vision blurred, father signaled for his men to pull them apart. Theodore, Gideon said, straightening up and giving a formal salute. Gideon, Dinina, father replied gravely. You've done a great service. I won't let your loyalty go unruffled. Tell me, what do you want? Gideon's eyes flicked briefly toward Luna. Then, despite her desperate expression, he said firmly, I've come back from the dead. And my heart has changed. I wish to live in obscurity. As if Gideon no longer exists. As for Luna, she and I are finished. I want nothing more to do with her. His words hit the floor like a hammer. Luna flinched violently. She burst into tears, throwing herself toward him. No, I won't accept that. You can't just abandon me now that you're back. She shook her head over and over, panic written all over her face. She had always depended on others, clinging like a vine. When Kale was there, he solved everything for her. After marriage, it was Gideon. Even when she learned of his disappearance, she only grieved briefly, then sought comfort in Kale's arms. Isn't this what you wanted? Gideon sneered coldly. Now that I'm gone, you and Kale can be together openly. But Luna refused to yield. To her, Kale had always been a substitute, never the first choice. Especially after being humiliated in public that day. She could never admit she didn't resent him for it. I don't even like him, she screamed. It was just a temporary arrangement. She clung to Gideon's hand, begging frantically. But in doing so, she broke another man's heart. Kale clutched his chest. His breath ragged. His pupils dilated with a pain he could barely hide. I noticed it immediately, and found it almost poetic. I had chased him for 8 years. And now, I finally knew how to let go. But someone else was still trapped in the same delusion. So whatever happens next, he deserves it. Gideon, Kale shouted, desperate now. I told you. There's nothing between me and Luna. It's Elena, she's the one framing us. His accusation fell squarely on me. I met his hateful glare with a cool, indifferent smile. Kale, I said softly. Words have consequences. Father slammed the table with a sharp crack, silencing the room. I reached out to calm him again, then faced Kale squarely, utterly unflinching. If this really has nothing to do with me, I said, what will you do? I'll withdraw myself from the unit. Kale declared loudly. Remove my name from the special operations list. I knew how much his career meant to him. How hard he'd fought to earn his place. To swear on that meant he was truly convinced. Ready to gamble everything. Convinced I was the villain in his story. Good, I said quietly. I spoke softly and played the voice message Gideon had sent. Sis, Pud, the commander must have told you I'll be back in 3 days. Don't tell Kale. You know how he can't keep his mouth shut. I want to surprise Luna. I replayed it several times, watching the color drain from their faces. I smiled. Seems Gideon didn't manage to surprise you two after all. Instead, you gave him quite a fright. No. I don't believe it. I asked you that day. Kale snapped out of his daze and shouted, his voice cracking with panic. Each sentence from the recording was like a slap across his face. I tilted my head, my tone mocking. And what did I say? Kale? I don't recall answering you at all. He was flailing, desperate to find anyone to take the blame that was crushing him. You. The words died on his tongue. Luna sank to her knees again. pulling her old trick. Elena. For something this serious. You could have said something. Do you have any idea how much pain I'd been in? How foolish she made me look. She wept, trembling. Please. I'm begging you, don't make me suffer anymore. Once. I might have wavered under the weight of their pleas. Let the world turn its finger on me again. But now. Their true faces were exposed. Any excuse from them was just another lie. In the end, the old commander struck his cane against the floor, silencing everyone. Enough. You'll both get what you deserve. He turned to Gideon. Gideon. Will you rejoin my unit? A new name. But your honor remains. Gideon straight and unsaluted. Then came the verdict for Kale. Remove him from the Special Forces roster and make it public. A man with no integrity has no place among us. At once. 2 officers stepped forward, restraining Kale as they tore off his insignia, his life's glory stripped away in an instant. Send him to the military tribunal. Interfering with a soldier's marriage, let the law judge him. Kale collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. He knew his life was over. Beside him, Luna's tears flowed freely. But hers were tears of regret. As a soldier's widow, she could have lived a life of dignity and comfort. But she wanted more. And now, this was the price. For her. I had only one thing to say: you brought this on yourself. When everything was finally settled, my life returned to peace. I spent my days walking dogs and feeding birds with my father, the quiet rhythm of home soothing my heart. Kale had people plead for leniency. And only then did I learn. My father had demanded the maximum sentence. I told them. He huffed. No one bullies Theodore's daughter and walks away. Not while I'm still breathing. My eyes stung. The gruff old man before me had always been my shield. Never blaming me for poor judgment. Never resenting the mess I'd brought home. So many cling to broken marriages for pride's sake. Afraid of gossip. Afraid of being seen as unhappy. Even I, the one betrayed, had been whispered about behind my back. But he, my father, accepted me wholly. At an age when he should have been enjoying his twilight years. He was still worrying about me. Dad. I smiled through the blur in my eyes. You're too good to me. He grunted, pretending to be annoyed. You're my only daughter. Who else would I spoil? No one comes before you. And his expression brightened mischievously. By the way, some of my old buddies have kids about your age. See anyone you like? I'll keep an eye out for you. I couldn't help but laugh, shaking my head at his unending energy. Dad. I just want to spend more time with you. I leaned against him, as I used to when I was little Lias. And in that moment, I realized that this simple, ordinary peace was my truest, most heartfelt wish.